Hello. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome back to another episode of Daily Hours. Daily Hours, the 3 hours that we follow every day, reading, reflecting, and responding to the Word of God. Why do we do this daily? Kasi ito yung pagkain ng ating spiritual bodies, and we always compare it to with our with our physical bodies, we eat our food, our nutrition daily para hindi tayo nagkakasakit, di ba? Malakas tayo lagi, masigla katawan natin. Ganun na ganun din sa spiritual bodies natin na kinakain natin nanggagaling sa Word of God. Ayun. And currently, we are in the book of Exodus. We're going to read chapter 18 tonight. At ang mga kasama natin magbabasa ay sina Josh at Jazz. Di ba? Si Josh at si Jazz. So, Kuya Josh, musta dyan? Kumusta ka naman?
Yun, okay naman bro, all is well sa awa ng Panginoon. And yun, another day of reading. Medyo maluwag ang schedule ko ngayon since kakatapos lang ng prelims. But then again, after a few days, balik na ulit sa medyo haggard na schedule. Pero ganun pa rin, tuloy-tuloy.
Mismo, no? So, petiks muna kayo, Josh. Pahinga pag may oras. Ayun. Thank you, Josh, for the update. Kuya Jasper, how are you? Long time no see.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Yeah, good evening. Yeah, praise God now. We're still here. I'm still here and I'm doing well, especially with the rains, di ba? And my heart goes out to the people na affected. Actually, we were in the hospital yung the news about those 3 kids, if you heard about it. We were there. Yeah, so it's kind of, it's sad. My heart's, again, sad. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. True indeed. Thank you, Kuya Jasper, for the update. And yes, we are still here, but looking into the news, hindi lang tayo yung tinamaan and a lot more people ang tinamaan and received worse than what we have received. No? So bagyo, some of them lost their houses, a lot of their ari-arian nila. So ngayon dapat mangibabaw ang bayanihan. So help however you can. And patiin natin dito. Sabi nga, nakita ko si Cez, sabi niya. Ayun, good morning ka ABCs. At may kuryente na. Ayun. So it's actually good, no? Praise God that the typhoon has passed. I believe nakalabas na siya sa PAR. Ayun, so bawi na tayo. Bangon na tayo, mga Pilipino. Bangon. And si Kasmir andyan din. Good evening, mga ka-ABC. Hope you guys are doing well. And batiin na rin natin lahat. Nandiyan na rin silang lahat. Si Aldwin, good evening din ka-ABC. Hi, Kuya. And si Bea Moore. Blessed evening po sa lahat, sabi niya. And of course, si Mother Dear na nasa taas lang. Good evening, sabi niya. And si Ate Lea na nasa YouTube. Magandang gabi, umaga at hapon KBC. Glad to be with you again. And I hope everybody's fine. Stay awesome and healthy. Ka-faith lang mga kapatid. Let's go. Happy daily hours. Ayun. So, hope you guys are fine and wala masyadong damage, no? After that storm, medyo malakas din ang tama sa atin. So, while we wait for the others, medyo makapit siguro internet nila ngayon. Ayun, si Kuya Jess, nakapasok na din. ABC, encouraging evening everybody, everyone, everywhere, everything. Glad to be here mga ka-ABC. Welcome sa mga bago, let's go, tuloy-tuloy lang. Umulan, bumagyo, umaraw, kahit ano, indeed. And of course, si Bea Moore, isa sa mga palakas na taggers natin. So, sa mga nandyan na, this is one way of inviting your friends or wherever you want to invite and what we're doing daily. Our reading daily. Thank you, Bea Moore. And dagdagan mo pa yan. Ayan. So, marami pa akong di nababasa. Siguro nahirapan silang connect. So, recap muna tayo while we wait for them. So, like I said, we are in the book of Exodus. We just finished reading chapter 17 last night. Ang nangyari kagabi, ano pa nga ba, nagreklamo na naman sila, no? Nauhaw sila. So, they grumbled against Moses. And they even said na mas okay pa, di ba? Mas okay pa na, bakit, ano ba yung sinabi nila dito sa part na to? Because in the previous chapters, they kept saying that mas okay pang namatay na lang kami sa Egypt kasi doon kumakain kami. Doon, that was in chapter 16. And then chapter 17, dito, sa verse 2. So they quarreled with Moses and said, give us water to drink. And Moses replied, "Why do you quarrel with me? Why do you put the Lord to the test?" No, they quarrel to Moses, but they unknowingly or maybe indirectly complaining to the Lord. Because the Lord did told them that He's going to be with them. But knowing that already, they kept complaining. So basically, or technically, they are complaining against the Lord. And ang dami nating reflections dito for us. We also complain, we also grumble about the little things we encounter, we experience here on earth. And we oftentimes overlook that the Lord is probably testing us, the Lord is always with us, and we still find reasons to complain. Very similar attitude with the Israelites. And this is actually, when we read about their story, it reminds us of to always be thankful. There will always be reasons for us to be grateful and be thankful. No? And that's nabanggit na rin in the New Testament too. In every circumstance, always be grateful and be thankful. So when the Lord heard that they are thirsty, they're needing water. So the Lord, actually, so verse 4, then Moses cried out to the Lord, "What am I going to do with these people? They're almost ready to stone me." So kasi they're complaining and siguro mainit na yung ulo nila, uhaw na sila. So the Lord answered Moses, "Go out in front of the people, take with you some of the elders of Israel, and take in your hand the staff." Ito yung staff na laging dala-dala niya, somewhat like a trademark of Moses, no? Moses and the staff of God, which you struck the Nile, and go. I will stand there before you by the rock at Horeb, strike the rock, and water will come out. So, hindi lang basta-basta may tubig, hindi. Again, the Lord gave them water through a miracle, or He performed another wonder in front of them. But still, because of the Israelites being short-sighted, hindi nila napapansin to. Hindi na tatanda sa kanila yung mga ginagawa ni Lord. Kasi mababaw, they react instinctively. And then after that encounter in verse 7, they even question if the Lord is really with them. Sabi doon, because the Israelite, and he called the place Massa and Meribah, because the Israelites quarreled and because they tested the Lord, saying, "Is the Lord among us or not?" Diba? After all the wonders that the Lord has performed, protecting them, guiding them out of Egypt, they still ask this question. So for us, let's reflect on that as well. Diba? And then after that, verse 8 onwards, here they encountered the Amalekites, a tribe that are well known as raiders. They kill to loot and they kill for fun. But in this part, the Lord was with them, so they won this war. And how? So Moses, having the staff of God with him, he raised it up. Tapos meron dito yung sharing or insight nila Aldwin, nila Kuya Jess, nila Alton, yung element of teamwork, element of ano ba yun? Ano yung teamwork? Yeah, teamwork. Kasi nakataas yung kamay ni Moses, hawak yung staff. Basta nakataas yung staff. The Israelites are winning. They are winning the battle. Pero syempre si Moses, mga ngalay yan. Syempre, hindi naman ganun kabilis matapos yung laban, di ba? So, babae, napapagod siya. Then Aaron and Hur came in. They helped lift the hand or the arm of Moses up to keep the staff up so that magpatuloy yung panalo ng mga Israelites. Kasi nung bumababa yung kamay ni Moses holding the staff of the Lord, lumalamang yung mga Amalekites. And a lot more insights about this encounter with the Amalekites and about them complaining about water and how God gave them water from the rock, from the video last night. So you can just watch that and dyan lang po yung sa Facebook page. And tonight we're going to read chapter 18, which now goes back to the father-in-law of Moses, Jethro. We're going to read about them meeting, and also Jethro. He provided something to Moses here. He helped him out because Moses' responsibility in the tribe of Israelites, among the Israelites is really heavy, and tinulungan siya ni Jethro dito. So paano? Basahin natin. So before I call on, sinong gusto magbasa ngayon? Jasper? Yes, all right. So before I call on Jasper, batiin muna natin yung mga humabol. Ayun na sila. Medyo nahirapan lang siguro pumasok. So ayun, Ate Aiza, blessed evening. Blessed evening din Ate at si Crystal. Blessed Wednesday, mga ka-ABC. Indeed, midweek na, di ba? Matatapos na naman ng isang linggo. And hello, Shella. Awesome evening. And si Dad, hello Dad, good evening. And Ate Shoni, awesome evening ka-ABC. And si Alduin and si Beamor, nag-awesome na. So, tara, umpisahan na natin. Sabayan nyo na sila Beamor and Alduin na mag-awesome. Let's read verses 1 to... Verses 1 to 11. This is the part where Jethro met with Moses. Ayan. So, okay, Jasper, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Okay, verse 1. Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, the priest of Midian, heard about everything that God had done for Moses and for God's people Israel when the Lord brought Israel out of Egypt. Now Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, had taken in Zipporah, Moses' wife, after he had sent her back, along with her 2 sons, one of whom was named Gershom, because Moses had said, I have been a resident alien in a foreign land. And the other, Eliezer, because he had said, the God of my father was my helper and rescued me from Pharaoh's sword. Moses' father-in-law, Jethro, along with Moses' wife and sons, came to him in the wilderness where he was camped at the mountain of God. He sent word to Moses, I, your father-in-law, Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons. So Moses went out to meet his father-in-law, bowed down, and then kissed him. They asked each other how they have been and went into the tent. Moses recounted to his father-in-law all that the Lord had done to Pharaoh and the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardships that confronted them on the way, and how the Lord rescued them. Jethro rejoiced over all the good things the Lord had done for Israel when he rescued them from the power of the Egyptians. Blessed be the Lord, Jethro exclaimed, who rescued you from the power of Egypt and from the power of Pharaoh. He has rescued the people from under the power of Egypt. Now I know that the Lord is greater than all gods, because he did wonders when the Egyptians acted arrogantly against Israel.
Ayun, so doon muna tayo. Thank you, Kuya Jasper. So in this part, ayun na nga, na Jethro, pinaalam niya kay Moses that he's going to meet him, and they finally met. It's actually, if we're going to imagine it, it's a refreshing encounter or moment for Moses kasi parang pag-vent din, tapos he was nakapagkwento siya sa father-in-law niya. It's just a nice relationship that they have. So let's ask Kuya Josh for his insights on this part. And what are your thoughts, Kuya?
Yun, hello, good evening to everyone. And again, mabasa natin dito na it's the story of Jethro meeting with his son-in-law, Moses, kung saan, babalikan natin yung storya, paano sila nagkakilala, is when Moses fled to Midian kasi he killed an Egyptian, diba? And once nung namatay yung Egyptian na yun, parang gusto siyang arestuhin ni Pharaoh, kaya tumakas siya papuntang Midian, and then he met his father-in-law o tatay ng kanyang asawa na si Zipporah, at yun, ngayon nag-meet up ulit sila. Siguro marami silang catch up na napag-usapan, lalong-lalo na dun sa part na narinig ni Jethro na tinulungan ng Diyos, the God of Moses, na makaalis sila ng Egypt. So it's a very, kumbaga, yung balita na yun, sobrang paano ba explain yun? Sobrang famous ng balita na yun, or at least talagang amazing, di ba? So pag nalaman yun nila Jethro, talagang matatayo yung balahibo nila, di ba? Gusto nilang makausap mismo yung mga tinulungan ng Diyos, di ba? From the flesh. Si Moses mismo yung kanyang son-in-law na leader ng Israelites that time. So may kita natin dito na yun, maganda yung samahan ni Jethro tsaka ni Moses. Ano? By the way, Jethro was the priest of Midian. No? And yung Midian, saan ba to ngayon? I think it's a part of Saudi Arabia in these times. Makita natin na he's a priest of a certain religion in the parts of Midian. Kasi si Jethro, nung mga nabasa ko sa research, no, he's a Kenite. Some scholars suggest na ang God din na sinasamba ni Jethro that time is Yahweh, or could be not as well. Pero kumaga wala namang direktang sinabi rito sa Bible, ano. But he's a priest of Midian, and I'm not really sure if he serves Yahweh before pa niya makilala si Moses, or nakita niya yung nangyari hindi nakita, nabalitaan niya yung nangyari sa Exodus, di ba? Which is yun yung pinaka-pinpoint ng story nito. And one thing na as they catch up with each other, na amaze si Jethro dun sa kay Yahweh, no? Sa God ni Moses, kung saan tinulungan sila makaalis sa Egypt, which is a very, sabi nga natin kanina, amazing story na hindi matutumbasan ng kahit na sino. Diba? Sino ba namang makakapaghati ng Red Sea? Tapos makakapagtiklop kay Pharaoh, in a sense. And as we can see here, na Jethro blessed God. Sabi ni Jethro sa verse 10, "Blessed be the Lord who has delivered you out of the land, out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of Pharaoh, and who has delivered the people from under the hand of the Egyptians." So ayun, it's like hearing a good news, di ba? Kasi knowing that they are being oppressed by the Egyptians at nalaman yun ni Pharaoh, it brings good news sa kanila. And nakikita rin natin na nag-i-spread yung fame, yung glory, and yung power ng ating Panginoong Diyos. Which is one of the reasons why God sent the 10 plagues, God parted the Red Sea, and God hardened the heart of Pharaoh, di ba? So it's all coming together. Kumbaga, it fits the puzzle eh. So itong pag-meet up ni Jethro at ni Moses ay bukod sa kumbaga family bonding, it's also in a spiritual sense kung saan mas lalong nakilala ni Jethro yung tunay na Panginoong Diyos. Diba? So sa atin ba, mga kapatid, i-relate natin to sa buhay natin. Were there stories na napakinggan natin o sabihin natin na intindihan natin from other people or even in our life kung saan mas nakilala natin yung Panginoong Diyos? Kasi when Jethro heard the exodus of the Israelites, diba? Mas lalo niyang kinilala yung Panginoong Diyos. So were there instances in your lives that your faith made strong out of that story, diba? For example, yun yung, diba sa Baguio ngayon, binabagyo yung Baguio. So, ayun, at sa mga kapatid natin, tsaka sa mga kaibigan na natin sa Baguio, and I hope, and we hope and pray na everyone is doing fine after all that has happened with the typhoon. And our prayers go with you. And with that said, kunwari yun nga, yung example natin, yung Baguio sa Baguio. Yung experience na yun na nakasurvive ka, let's say na talaga naapektuhan ka, yung pananim mo, yung property mo, or yung kung ano man na nasa iyo ay nasalanta ng bagyo, or kung anumang disaster, tapos ikaw ay nakasurvive at nakita mo yung kamay ng Panginoon na gumabay sa'yo, di ba titibay ka, lalakas ka. So sana na-appreciate natin yung mga ganong circumstances kung saan natututo tayo sa storya ng ibang tao o kahit sa mismong buhay natin na nakita natin na gumalaw yung Panginoong Diyos doon. At huwag natin yun i-taken for granted na, maganda lang kasi yung mga pangyayari sa buhay ko. Dala lang yan ng mga circumstances, di ba? And we believe na all things are controlled by God. And there's no such thing as coincidence or sabihin na nating chances in or circumstances kung bakit, halimbawa, di ka nasalanta ng baha, pero malakas yung bagyo sa certain na lugar nyo. So, sasabihin natin na, tsamba lang yan, di ba? May time na ganun eh. Pero sana, i-acknowledge natin yung power ng Diyos, na He is the all-powerful God who is providing for us, delivering us, keeping us safe, and blessing us all throughout our lives, di ba? Lalong-lalo na sa certain situations kung saan nahihirapan tayo. So yun, sana ma-appreciate natin yung mga napagdadaanan natin, experiences, not just for ourselves, sabi nga natin kanina sa ibang tao rin, katulad ng kay Jethro, di ba? Tsaka kay Moses. And dahil doon, Jethro's faith was made strong. And again, doon naman sa bonding nila, di ba? Parang nakakatuwa lang na hindi katulad sa storya ni Jacob at ni Laban. Kasi si Laban ay father-in-law rin ni Jacob, di ba? Asawa niya na si Rachel tsaka si Leah. Pero medyo masalimuot yung kanilang pagsasama dahil nagta-take advantage si Laban kay Jacob. And they're deceiving each other. Pero about here, wholesome, di ba? Yung pagtatagpo nila. It's kind of holistic. So something to keep in mind then when we meet our faraway families, our relatives, we treat them with love and respect. Tsaka, yun, yung bonding, andyan, yung mutual relationship nyo kung saan you respect each other, treating each other as a family, and ayun, you spend time together catching up with things. I mean, it can also relate to fellowship, no, with our brothers and sisters. Do we enjoy each other's company? And do we give sound advices to one another when it comes to our lives, diba? So, something to think about natin. So, yun muna sa akin.
Awesome. Thank you, Kuya Josh. Sa points niya, no, na the power of the testimonies in our lives and how God moved in our lives. Lalo on how, if we look back from our past, how we were before and how we are now, how much we've changed, how much we've matured. Hindi lang tayo yun eh. Diba? Lalo if we are walking with the Lord, He's continually changing our hearts, our minds. So those are milestones. And people see that as well. So in our lives, when people notice the change in you, parang ganun na rin yun eh. Parang ganun na rin yung nalaman ni Jethro through Moses. So that's very powerful. And wag sana tayong mahiyan ikwento yung buhay natin. Paano tayo minomold ni Jesus. So yeah. And talking ko naman si Kuya Jasper for his thoughts tonight.
Yeah, I agree with Josh saying that. Very wholesome, right? So for our married brothers and sisters, I hope your father-in-law is like a Jethro. Anyway, yes, we need a Jethro in our lives. Anyway, when I was reading the story, I was wondering what? So Moses' wife and children wasn't with him. So Zipporah was with Jethro actually. So I was thinking, so where was she during the past few verses? So some scholars speculated most likely after the incident with the circumcision thing with Zipporah. Zipporah, after that event, maybe returned to her father, Jethro. Anyway, yeah, Zipporah is like, she doesn't get mentioned a lot. So Moses' wife. Anyway, I just want to talk about her since she'll be mentioned again in the following verses. I think, because that's a different topic again. Some said kasi Moses had another wife. Anyway, yes, sorry, I won't answer that question about the second wife of Moses, or maybe it's Zipporah. Anyway, so yes, that's Zipporah. So anyway, in these verses, the 1 to 11, this is the visit of Jethro. And here we can gain more insight about Jethro, right? Like what Josh said about how his faith got strengthened. I think for me, since he said, truly your God is the greatest of among other gods. So I think we can assume that since he's a priest of Midian, again, yes, it's in Saudi Arabia, Western Saudi Arabia today. So we can assume that Jethro maybe worshipped other gods, but because of what happened in Egypt, of how powerful God is, his faith now is to God only. So he said kasi among other gods. So maybe he worshipped other gods. But again, like what Josh said, we're not really sure. Some scholars speculated he already worshipped Yahweh. Anyway, so again, it shows how Jethro is a very, how do you call this? This He's such a pious man in a way. It's kind of ironic that the Israelites are even doubting if God is with them. Yet Jethro only heard the tales about God, and he already has faith in God. He already placed his faith in God. So it's amazing how Jethro is this character, this kind of character. Again, maybe Zipporah, since Zipporah is the wife of Moses, maybe she told the tales. And this shows as well the influence of God, since the events of what happened in Egypt is a big thing. And maybe it spread through Africa or the continent, and maybe other nations are hearing this already. So it shows again the power of God, his influence. Right? Since Jethro heard about it, maybe also the neighboring nations heard about it. Again, yes, this is the start of, the God's plan. And God's plan. Anyway, yes, again, verses 1 to 11, Jethro, such a good guy. Yes. Anyway, that's all for my insights naman for those verses.
Alright, thank you Kuya Jasper. Indeed, no, na matunog yung nangyari. Kasi if we're going to situate ourselves in their time, in their generation, if you are, kahit hindi tayo we're not Egyptians, we are neighboring nations, and then we hear a pharaoh defeated by some god, diba, maintriga ka, what, diba, pharaoh of Egypt? So it would really kakalat yung balita, and kung umabot kay Jethro and Midian, it most likely have reached other nations, and that is the influence of God. You cannot really put the power of God, His plans, na encapsulate mo in this small box. Hindi. He is limitless. When He says He's gonna do, and it's gonna happen, and He did say it, diba? He's gonna make Himself known. He's going to judge all their gods, and that's exactly what happened. Not just within the Egyptians, but also to other people like Jethro, kung sino man ang ina-acknowledge ng gods before. Now, tumaas yung faith niya, mas naniwala na siya kay Yahweh, the God of Moses, our God. No? Because of all these testimonies, na from hearing about it to actually knowing about it from his actual son-in-law, Moses, who was there at that, na sa kanya nangyari yun, di ba? So, the influence of God indeed. And sabi din ni Kuya Jesse sa verses 9 to 10, let us continue to proclaim God's goodness in our lives to other people. God will be glorified. God is awesome. God is awesome indeed. And one way of glorifying Him is through our life testimonies indeed. And we are also hosting that. So sa mga kaibigan natin dyan, you want to tell your story, we have our Sunday Christian Dialogue if you want to inspire, encourage, or share about your experience, your encounter with Jesus. Ayun. So, chat nyo lang kami. We're going to arrange that for you. Thank you, Kuya Jess. And si Ezra, sabi naman niya, I just realized na in comparison to the entire Israelites who experienced God's saving grace, sila pa yung ungrateful at hindi ina-acknowledge si God. Samantalang si Jethro, who didn't see and didn't experience it, siya pa yung immediate na nag-acknowledge kay God at nag-sacrifice agad siya. Indeed, no? He also acknowledged that the sacrifices so that he can uplift God's name. Patunay lang na even though people experience God's presence boldly with their eyes pa, and experiencing it firsthand, it doesn't determine the strength of our faith to God. Katulad nga ng sabi ni Jesus na, blessed are those who didn't see and yet have believed. Maging tulad po tayo ni Jethro, even though hindi natin nakita or na-experience firsthand ang ating Savior, dapat strong din yung faith natin sa Kanya at patuloy nating i-uplift si Jesus through our spiritual sacrifices. I agree. And, wala na akong madagdag. So, solid na to, Kuya Ezra. Solid. So, it says a lot about Jethro talaga, no? It's really up to the person and how that person will react to what he hears, to what he knows. Kung yung comparison between the Israelites and Jethro. And si Kuya Jess, sabi naman niya, yes, Christian Dialogue every Sunday, 7:30 to 8 p.m. One way we can proclaim God's goodness online is through our lives and just, diba? One way of encouraging the young ones, the old ones, the old still. Yung lahat ng tao. Thank you, Kuya Jess, for the shameless plug. Ayun. So, okay. Nagkita na yung dalawa, the father-in-law and the son-in-law. And we're going to read now how Jethro helped out Moses in his responsibility among the Israelites. And this is also something we can learn a lot about. We're learning a lot about Jethro actually tonight, no? Ayan, so basahin natin. Tawagin ko naman si Kuya Josh this time to read verses 12 onwards.
Okay, so verses 12. Then Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, took a burnt offering and other sacrifices to God. And Aaron came with all the elders of Israel to eat bread with Moses' father-in-law before God. And so it was on the next day that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood before Moses from morning until evening. So when Moses' father-in-law saw all that he did for the people, he said, "What is this thing that you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit and all the people stand before you from morning until evening?" And Moses said to his father-in-law, "Because the people came to me to inquire of God. When they have a difficulty, they come to me, and I judge between one and another, and I make known the statutes of God and his laws." So Moses' father-in-law said to him, "The thing that you do is not good. Both you and these people are with you will surely wear yourselves out, for this thing is too much for you. You are not able to perform it by yourself. Listen now to my voice. I will give you counsel, and God will be with you. Stand before God for the people, so that you may bring the difficulties to God." Verse 20, "And you shall teach them the statutes and the law, and show them the way in which they must walk, and work they must do. Moreover, you shall select from all the people able men, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place such over them to be rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. And let them judge the people at all times. Then it be that every great matter they shall bring to you, but every small matter they themselves shall judge. So it will be easier for you, for they will bear the burden with you. If you do this thing, and God so commands you, then you will be able to endure, and all these people will also go to their place in peace." Verse 24. So Moses heeded the voice of his father-in-law and did all that he has said. And Moses chose able men out of all Israel and made them heads over the people, rulers of thousands, rulers of hundreds, rulers of fifties, and rulers of tens. So they judged the people at all times. The hard cases they brought to Moses, but they judged every small case themselves. Then Moses let his father-in-law depart and went his way to his own land.
Yon, and that's a reading for tonight. Thank you, Kuya Josh. That's until 27, and we can see that may payo si Jethro kay Moses. Kasi nga, mag-isa niyang parang counselor kind of, no, sa buong Israelite nation. And Jethro already actually told Moses na hindi mo kaya yan, hindi siya sustainable. Parang ganun sinasabi niya. Kasi laging may problema araw-araw, mapupuno ka. And dito pumasok yung delegation, teamwork, and carrying each other's burden basically. So, ayun. Ganda lang. Tanawin natin si Kuya Jasper. What are your thoughts on this part of our reading?
Yeah, so for those verses 12 to 27, it's entitled, I'm reading the King James Version. It's entitled Jethro's Advice. And so I want to talk about, pieces of advice and how important it is for us to learn to grow as a Christian. So let's talk about that. So I want to talk about that. I keep on saying that. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so yeah, pieces of advice. Um, the person receiving it should have an open mind, and fortunately, in this time, Moses had an open mind, and it's actually one of the good qualities of a leader. Again, Moses is a leader here, and a good leader also listens to pieces of advice. Since if you have pieces of advice, if you don't ask for help or if you don't ask anything, you're only stuck with your own perspective, and that's what's so nice about asking for help. You get a new set of eyes, or it's like you get a new perspective of how to deal with situations. And for this case, it's dealing with cases in Israel. So yes, again, for a leader or anyone, it's nice to have an open mind when listening to advice. Again, maybe the reasons why we don't like to listen to advice could maybe the person giving it, or we simply don't want to learn. So that's one of the reasons I can think of why people don't listen. Again, let's learn to listen. Moses, he's a leader, yet he listened, and it did him good. Now, going to the advice of Jethro, what I like about his advice is that he tried to cater it to like God, right? It's like I remember reading the verse. It's like he's saying that, hey, you could do this thing instead if it's if God is okay with it. Parang that's like what how he said it kasi. So again, it only shows his faith already to God, and it's already solidified. And when he tried to give this piece of advice, it's actually also aligned. Actually, it does not go against God. So again, advice could be good or bad. It could be, and that depends on, again, that depends on you. For a Christian, we must learn how to, identify if it's really good or if it's really not. Because there are times where, yeah, it's nice to hear, pieces of advice from other people, but because of our different views and different perspectives, sometimes the advice they give is not sound. It's not really, it does not actually complement with God. That's why, again, you need to learn. But again, it never hurts to have an open mind as long as you don't be gullible. Okay, so yeah, going to the advice of Jethro, it's like, wow, it's such a good idea. It's what we're doing actually. You can see it already in our modern day uh, government. Yes, the only difference is for Moses, they actually chose capable men and honest men. And I don't like to say, yeah, this is a wholesome night. I don't like to, let's not talk. I'll try to not talk about politics again. Politics is such a dirty thing, so I'll avoid talking about it. Anyway, again, good advice from father-in-law Jethro. So far, that's what I'll share. Yep.
All right. Thank you, Kuya Jasper. Indeed, no, yung pagiging open-minded ni Moses, and we read it across the book of the Proverbs, that a wise man knows how to listen. A wise man knows when to speak. Diba? Controlled yung person, and also being able to listen and having an open mind, considering other people's opinion or advice, is a sign of being humble. Kasi pag proud ka na, hindi, wala na ako pakialam sa payo mo, magaling na ako, kaya ko na ito mag-isa. But for Moses, ang ganda nung reaction niya na, nga, he listened to his father-in-law. And also, I believe meron ding effect dito yung relationship nilang dalawa. Diba? Because they're in such in good terms that they're complementing each other, helping out each other. It's a relationship that helps each other grow. Ayun. So, something we should invest on too as well. With our friends, with our brothers and sisters, help each other grow. Thank you, Kuya Jasper. About Kuya Josh.
Okay, yun. Very good sharing, Brother Jasper, about your points about the advice of a wise man. And indeed, advices and help from other people are very important, lalong-lalo na yung tinatawag natin comments and feedbacks, no? So in this way, nakita ni Jethro yung ginagawa ni Moses, which is judging the people, helping them to fix, to solve their problems, their dispute among each other, their difficulties or whatnot. At yung mga problema na yun ay nare-resolve isa-isa ni Moses, which is kung titingnan natin, napakaraming tao nun. Sabihin natin, thousands of people na ang population ng Israel by this time. And that would be very hard for Moses alone to judge, to help, and to decide for the people. And as Jethro said, they will wear themselves out. They will tire themselves out if they are to stand all day long waiting for Moses to judge them one by one. Di ba? Napakahirap nun. And so that Jethro gave an advice to Moses, which is about, hindi ko alam kung ano yung exact term sa kanya, pero is it clustering? Di ba? Yung parang tinugrupo-grupo niya. And it's a very wonderful strategy in which Moses is able to kumbaga, distribute the burden among able men. So, ayun, sabi rito na a leader would judge a 10, a group of 10, a group of 50, a group of 100, then thousands, diba? So, maybe a small dispute would be able to resolve by the leader of the 10, right? Siguro kung mga maliliit na problema, siguro I can think of any, pero basta may mga maliliit na disputes, di ba? Pero kapag malalaking problema na talagang sakop na yung maraming tao, tsaka na lang nila dadaling kay Moses or dun sa leader of the thousands. So in that way, the help is distributed, the effort is, kumbaga, nag-spread siya. A lot of people would have an opportunity, lalo na yung able men to help judge among the Israelites. And it's a wonderful task, no, or a wonderful plan kung saan, di ba nakikita natin yung tulong-tulungan, yung division of labor, kung tawagin. Tapos, kumbaga, hindi lang siya one-man rule ng kay Moses. And it's something na about a good leader should implement. That's why the advice of Jethro was good for Moses, and he successfully implemented that plan. At ayun, so nakita natin dito na it was, kumbaga, na-lift up yung burden kay Moses, or at least nabawasan. But ayun, papasok tayo sa leadership. Makita natin dito na a good leader, sabi rito, ano yung mga katangian ng good leader? Fear of God, ano pa ba? Men of truth, and hating covetousness, such as, and place such over them to be rulers. So, yun yung, kumbaga, basic principle ng paghahanap ng isang good leader. And yun nga, medyo politics ang dating, no? Malapit pa naman yung election. Pero anyway, layo-layo tayo sa topic na yun. It's yours to decide, mga kapatid. Pero we're still brothers and sisters in Christ, whether we have these preferences in politics. Ang sa atin lang is we must aim to vote for the people who deserve the position, di ba? Meron siyang fear of God, men of truth, covetousness, hating covetousness. Kumbaga, ano naman siya eh. Kumbaga, common sense na, di ba? Alam mo na dapat na ito dapat yung katangian ng isang good leader, na hindi siya kumbaga, basta politika lang, kundi talagang good leader talaga, God-fearing men. And with that said, yun yung mga dapat katangian ng hindi lang ng bawat leader dapat, pero bawat isa rin sa atin, mga Kristiyano. Kasi kung sa leader lang yung katangian na yun, hindi parang, ano na tayo? Hindi naman ako leader. Hindi na ako magiging God-fearing. Hindi na ako mag-hate ng covetousness, or I would not stand for the truth anymore. Diba? Pero, yun nga, good leadership starts with everyone naman. Diba? So, as long as we do our best, and the best would come out as well. But then again, it's not bad to divide the labor amongst ourselves and help is not a sign of weakness. Ayun, yung isa pa lang gusto ko i-point out. Help is not a sign of weakness. Kaya nung sinabi ni Jasper kanina, it's a very good point. Kung saan a good leader as well should strive help from other people na hindi lang sa kanya nanggagaling lahat. Kasi dun sa set of new pair of eyes, new pair of eyes pa, basta dun sa new pair of eyes na may kita mo through other people's lenses, di ba? May kita mo kung ano yung perspective nila, and you would be able to put yourselves in their shoes and would better understand them and would come up to better decisions. So all in all, advice is a very important thing to us, and learning comes not only from ourselves but also from other people as well. So let's take those advices with a gentle heart, diba? A respectful mind, and an open, sabi nga ni Jasper, open mind. So, napakahalaga nun. Kasi once na mataas masyado yung pride natin at hindi natin tinatanggap yung advice ng ibang tao, wala tayong patutunguhan. Kasi lahat tayo ay may pagkukulang, nagkakamali tayo, hindi tayo perfect in one way or another. And one thing na the best we can have for free, di ba, is yung experience of other people. Yung teachings nila, or ano pa ba, mga methods, mga techniques, mga basically advices, di ba? So, when we learn from them, we actually grow. Pero, ayun din, meron din mga bad advices na meron tayong makukuha. And this time, it was a good advice from his father-in-law, Jethro. Siguro, may incorporate din natin yung idea na pick the people who are, piliin mo yung mga tao na kunan mo ng advice. Ayun. Kumbaga, hindi ka lang pwede tanggap ng advice. Kung yung advice sa'yo is worldly naman, ba susundin mo ba? And what if the person who advises you is something that goes against God? E di, syempre hindi mo susundin yan. But if a brother or sister in Christ advises you to do something and it's biblical, di ba? Why not? Yun talaga yung dapat na sundin natin. Kasi maaaring hindi nga natin naririnig yung sagot ng Diyos sa problema natin. But through our brothers and sisters, yun yung ginagamit na kasangkapan ng Panginoon para tulungan tayo sa ating mga problema. And it could be our brothers and sisters advice. Kasi lalo na yung mga experience na ay matagal na sa faith, di ba? Yun, mga matured na sa pananampalataya. So, and that's why we learn from our elders as well. Yun yung sa akin.
Solid. Thank you, Kuya Josh. And this is something we always hear from our magulang natin, mga kuya, tito, uncle, sino mga matatanda, tito, titas, di ba? That they always give us advices because they know we are young and we have a lot to experience. And to save us from trouble, diba? From some of the problems we may face in the future, they say these things. And ang laging sinasabi sa akin ng nanay ko actually, wala namang mawawala kung makikinig ka. Diba? Pakinggan mo lang. Kung tama, sundin mo. Kung hindi, at least nakinig ka. Diba? Wala naman kasi talaga mawawala. And since then, it's actually an awesome advice. So, from what I received from my mom, I pass it on to whoever's watching this. Wala talagang mawawala. Just makinig lang. Kasi, something I've noticed when we stop listening, no, pag may nagpapayos, di tayo nakikinig, sinasara natin yung tenga natin, nagkakaroon ng conflict, nagkakaroon ng away, bandang huli ang nagsasabi ng payo, ikaw na nga pinapayuhan ko, di ka pa nakikinig, tapos nasisira yung relationship nyo kasi nagiging proud ka, di ba? Pero just humble down and listen, di ba? So, a lot of good things can happen when we just really listen and open our minds. And then, aside from what Jasper and Josh shared about delegation and advice from elders, dito sa verse 16, I noticed something. Flash ko lang sa delay. Ito. When Moses does his responsibility among the Israelites, he solves their problems, their conflicts, disputes. Ayun. So whenever they have dispute, it comes to me. And I make a decision between one man and another. And then he follows with this. I teach them God's statutes and laws. Diba? So hindi lang siya nagpapayo. He pinapayuhan niya sila according to what? God's standards. And this is something na hanggang sa atin dapat ito rin ang standards natin. When we give advice to our friends, our brothers, sisters, whoever that needs it or asks for it, we have to always base it on not on what they want to hear, but base it on the standards of God. Um, take that opportunity to influence them, teach them, talk to them the about God, basically, no? And itong principle na to, it's timeless and until today. Sana i-practice natin to. How Moses does his responsibility. And it is also a shared responsibility to us. Sabi nga ni Josh, no? It is passed on to us. We are also, in our own way, we are also called servant leaders. We could be delegated into tens, depende kung anong kaya nyo, but you always have influence. We always have influence. So we carry that badge of being a leader wherever we are. Yun. So sabi din dito ni Kuya Jesse, so verse 13 to 27, good communication, delegation, application. So Kuya Jesse being our kuya, I bet he does this to all of us. Yun. He actually was the one who trained some of us, you know. So he does this. It's very evident. And hindi lang sa government. Huwag natin panggitin yung government and whatever those, yeah. But in the church, diba? There are ministries and there are ministers and hindi lang sila yung gumagalaw. They also have key people. They also have small groups, cell groups. Basically, yun na yun. Yun na yun, di ba? Your accountability partners, yun na rin yun, mga kapatid. So, hanggang sa atin umaabot tong advice na to. Imagine that, Jethro's advice. He's actually dead how many years now? And we still have that advice. It's good, it's golden advice. And sabi din ni Ezra, in this part, parallelism of Moses as a mediator and choosing capable men. And Jesus as a mediator and choosing capable men as well. Diba? Ang galing ng parallelism. If you remember the verse when God said to Moses, I will raise a prophet like you, and he would say that. In this part, Moses is mediating between God and the Israelites, but Jesus is the greatest mediator ever. He mediates among all people, all men, and God. So he's the mediator. Awesome parallelism. Thank you for this, Ezra. And see, Christian, sabi naman niya, let us draw nearer to God for them and pray for them. So God is the great advisor, indeed. Indeed. And saan natin makikita yung advice niya? Tada! Di ba? That's why we read every day. We read every day to improve our lives, our way of lifestyle. As Christians, that is our lifestyle. And dagdag, ni Christian din, God's standards must be our standards. Amen. Amen indeed. As followers of Christ, yun talaga. Kasi we follow God, Jesus' way of living, the standards of his life is him pleasing the Father. So as we follow Christ, dapat pareho din. And ano ba yun? God's standards, di ba? So indeed, amen talaga, Kuya Christian. Thank you mga ka-awesome for your comments. Kung meron pa, bagsak nyo lang sa comment section. But that actually is chapter 18. Jethro visits Moses. From just visiting turns into a celebration and then turns into Jethro's faith in Yahweh growing, and then Moses learning something from Jethro. Just really a wholesome encounter between these two men. We are headed to our takeaways, mga ka-awesome, mga ka-ABC. May mga takeaways nyo, lagay nyo rin sa comments. Tawagin ko na si Kuya Jasper. Siya na mauna mag-takeaways for tonight.
Yeah, so for my takeaway for this night, if you seek good pieces of advice, Kuya O'Neill mentioned it. It's just right here. Yeah, especially in the book of Proverbs, Paul's letters, and Jesus himself. Yes.
Oh, short and sweet. Awesome, Kuya Jasper. How about Kuya Joshua?
Ayun, just like Jasper, what Jasper said, it's very important to seek out help and advice from other people as well, lalong-lalo na sa ating Panginoong Diyos. So basically, the gist of the story of chapter 18 is about Jethro visiting his son-in-law, Moses, and giving him a piece of advice in which Moses was able to successfully implement that and nabukasan yung burden, di ba? So nakita natin yung result of obeying someone's advice. A wise man gave a wise advice and a wise follower implemented that wise advice. Anong nangyari? It was a success, di ba? So it's the same for us. Well, we might say that advice from other people is kumbaga parang irrelevant, di ba? Kasi sino ba yung tao na yan? Ba't ko susundin yung advice niya? Pinagdaanan niya ba to? Alam niya ba yung nangyari sa akin? Diba? Minsan may ganun tayo eh. Kasi, kumbaga, yun nga, got yung pride, ganyan. Pero, as we can see here, na with Jethro's influence to Moses and Jethro's understanding about God's power over the Egyptians and that he delivered Israel from Pharaoh's hand, di ba? So, yun palang makikita natin na Jethro is a wise man who believed in God and made his faith strong through the testimony of Moses. So, the testimony of others is as well a very important kumbaga, learning for us. And pangalawa is the advice from our elders, from other people, experiences. So, sana hindi natin baliwalain yun. Let's do our best to live up to the advice, the best advice that we can have, which is, again, nabanggit na ni Jasper and ni Kuya O'Neil, di ba? Yung Bible na madalas na nakakalimutan nating basahin. Pero di natin alam yung mga sinulat ni Matthew, nila Mark, nila John, nila Apostle Paul, lalong-lalo na ni King Solomon, di ba? Grabe, sobrang wise, sobrang malaman. And I hope now we take that into our hearts, not just lightly, pero to our hearts and minds talaga.
Awesome. Thank you, Kuya Josh. Indeed, no, it's all in here in this book. It's a fat book. We take time to read it. It would really improve our perspective. And hindi lang yun, ultimately our relationship with God because we get to know Him in every single verse in there. Ayun. So let's get to know Him more. Ayun. So that's our episode for tonight. Kung walang nag-takeaways ngayon, ayos lang. Nag-reflect sila, walang problema. Si Kuya Jess. Alright, basahin natin yung kay Kuya Jess. In the same way, let your light shine before others so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. Matthew 5, verse 16. So let us share and proclaim God's goodness. Indeed, proclaim God's goodness in any way. No? Thank you, Kuya Jess. Wala talagang takeaways. Going once, going twice. Alright, kung wala na, parang kulang hindi ko ma-end. Ayun, tulong-tulong, kapit-bisig. Ayun, no. Because this is the work, proclaiming, glorifying God in every way that we can. And this is a heavy task. So delegation and teamwork, diba? We just read in chapter 17 how they help each other. They helped Moses. And this part, the delegation, so pag tagpi-tagpiin natin yun, good advice to help us in our service in the Lord, in the Lord's vineyard today. Ayun, so guys, I'll try my best to outro without some takeaways out there. Ayun, so, okay mga ka-awesome, bukas ulit 9 p.m. Tuloy natin. Chapter 19 na bukas. Nasa Mount Sinai na sila. Ano nangyari dun? Wow, diba? So, abangan, basahin natin bukas 9 p.m. dito lang sa Facebook. Siyempre, meron din sa KUMU and sa YouTube. Let's kita-kits ulit bukas as we continue to read, reflect, and respond to the greatest love story ever. No? And stay healthy, stay safe, awesome, stay with Jesus. Thank you, Kuya Josh, Kuya Jasper, for your time, for being with us tonight. And also, mga ka-awesome, thank you for being with us every night as well. Tagal na natin magkakasama. Solid kayo. So, fellow Christians, let the light shine wherever we are and let the love of Jesus be seen in us. So see you bukas ng gabi, 9 p.m. And of course, don't forget to pray. Bye-bye.